Good evening to my viewers in Europe. Good afternoon to my viewers in most of the North American, the Western Hemisphere. And good morning to my viewers in the Pacific Rim. And thank you so much for joining me. Welcome, everybody, to an unusual episode of The Angry Astronaut, where I am live streaming from my father's basement. Every now and then you may hear some noise in the background because this is where all of the equipment for the climate control and everything else is in this place. And you may see some very ancient technology behind me, TVs that date from like 20 years ago or something like that. This is a house that is an interesting picture of time, a time capsule that goes all the way from the early 90s up to today, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me. So really the reason why I wanted to talk to all of you today is to share some of the things that I have learned. Now, a lot of this stuff is going to be in the interviews, in the content that I'm going to be sharing from my Sierra Space tour, which was very long. I gathered enough information there for at least 2 videos worth of content, if not 3. I was there for 4 hours, no lie. I was at Sierra Space for 4 hours, speaking to all kinds of different representatives at the facility. I met their CEO. I met many of their VPs. It was an unbelievable experience, and my deepest thanks, by the way, to everybody at Sierra Space, to the people there who invited just someone who was absolutely nobody a couple of years ago, who really still is nobody aside from a YouTube creator, into their top secret facility, into their mission control, in sight of all of their proprietary secret technology, much of which the People's Republic of China is actively trying to get a hold of. For them to give me open access to all of that sophisticated stuff was amazing. I was thoroughly security vetted. I turned over my passport days before I went in. They really did a number on everything that I was up to, simply because Sierra Nevada and Sierra Space is a major military contractor as well as an aerospace and space company. So the technology they have is something that the enemies of the Western world very much want. And their firewall gets hit 1.5 million times per day. 1.5 million intrusion attempts per day, the majority of which is from the People's Republic of China. So for them to let somebody like me into where their facility is, in plain sight of Dream Chaser and all their high tech, unbelievable. I mean, I can't be more grateful. They were the most wonderful people. Thank you, by the way, Carl Magnus. Really do appreciate the support. And by the way, thanks to everybody for your ongoing support. This is what makes all of these things possible. These trips, they sometimes they seem inexpensive. Sometimes I think, okay, I'll be good. I'll stay with my dad. And then all of a sudden we have a major snowstorm that blocks off Monument Hill, and I'll be trapped in Colorado Springs if I don't get a hotel in Denver, which is what happened this time. I, got a couple nights in Denver unexpectedly. Not like I couldn't afford that. I could. It's just that the support that I get from you guys makes all the difference in the world. So I really am deeply appreciative of that, because that's what makes all of these things possible. I would have done none of these things if it hadn't been for you. So thank you so much for all of that. So I am joined by Rocky the Rocket. Rocky the Rocket is the mascot, is the symbol for ULA. And so Rocky the Rocket is absolute. I'm sorry, my father is dropping something off for me there. The Rocky the Rocket is the mascot for ULA, the symbol for ULA, and he shows up to Rocky's games. And honestly, not everybody at ULA, people at ULA have different opinions as to why Rocky is called Rocky. given the fact that ULA has the vast majority of their operations here. They have a lot of their mission control operations here. They have, Tory Bruno obviously has his office here. Maybe, that's why, just because the Rockies are such a big thing for people who are from Colorado, the Rocky Mountains, obviously. And then the Colorado Rockies were not just a baseball team, they were also a hockey team back when I was a kid. They are long since defunct, but the Colorado Rockies were an institution then too. Supax, thank you so much for your support, brother. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'm so thrilled that you're doing well. Thanks so much. So anyway, but a lot of you guys probably saw this. I got the Perseverance patch for ULA, and then the Lucy mission to the Trojan asteroids, that sort of thing. These things just kind of came into my possession. And then, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. The information I'm going to be sharing with you, some of this stuff comes from sources who do not work for ULA, who do not work for Sierra Space. They're not sharing proprietary or secret information or anything like that. I'm not sharing stuff I shouldn't be sharing, just to be absolutely clear here. So, we don't have to worry about any of those sorts of things. But I do want to make a couple of things very clear. And I want to start off with the ISS and Putin and what's going on with Ukraine. I know that a lot of us are sick of hearing about this. Including myself, a lot of us are just disgusted with hearing about all this nonsense. But here is the reality. And it may be very difficult to believe this, but I have it on very good authority from a source that I very much trust, that if the Russians were to make the decision to separate their section of the ISS away from the rest of the station and just take off like they did in that stupid joke thing that they presented, they could. And our side of the station would be in deep trouble. And the reason is because the maneuvering thrusters that are used for what's called a damage avoidance maneuver, those thrusters are on the Russian side. So the Russian, plus the progress module for the Russians, obviously that's used for reboost. That is Russian as well. That station could actually, it wouldn't be easy, but that station, size of the station could actually survive without Western support. On the other side of things would be a lot more complicated. Things would be a lot more difficult. Now, once again, props to the cosmonauts who just went up to the ISS wearing Ukrainian colors. I have little doubt in my mind that they were making a statement, that a statement was being made. And I am, I'm okay. There's apparently it's not a statement as much, packed months before the event, supposedly. Wow, what a coincidence that was to come up. It's too bad. If that is indeed the case, then that is quite unfortunate. But my partner in crime just informed me of that. That is very sad. Apparently, the colors of the Russian version of MIT. So that's what it was. Too bad indeed. My hope is that the cosmonauts who were wearing them, perhaps they, have their own personal feelings about this in conjunction with it. All I can hope is that if crazy man Rogozin decides to pull something with the ISS to put it in danger, my hope is that the cosmonauts will not follow his orders and that they will look towards the future of humanity in space rather than the whims of a madman. Let's see, he's former submariner from US Guam. Oh, thank you so much, MJ. Really do appreciate that. Being a submariner is never an easy job. So thanks very much for your service. Not an easy thing, indeed. Let's see here. Yeah, ULA has very awesome rockets, says Kawhi Astronaut. You know what? They do, at least as far as Atlas is concerned. I am a fan of Atlas, and I'll tell you why. The reason I like Atlas is simply it came out before reusability was really a thing. The shuttle, it cost as much money to reuse to reuse a solid rocket booster, for example, from the and you may hear that horrible noise in the background, to reuse a solid rocket booster from the shuttle as it costs to build a new one. But here's something else that was brought to my attention recently from a safety standpoint on the SR. I really liked this whole idea that was made of and I can say this outright. Somebody at Sierra Space who spent a lot of time at NASA told me this. Even if the price is the same, even if the cost of reusing an SRB is the same as building a new one, this person told me that they would prefer to have the data from the reused SRB, that they would prefer to retrieve. They would retrieve the SRB and get the information, the data that they got off of it, to use it for safety purposes in the future, rather than just build a new one and have it burn up. And this individual also expressed, of course, a sense of, I wouldn't say disgust, more disappointment that we're losing the SRBs on the SLS because of the fact that we're not going to get that data anymore, that we're not going to find out what the weak points in the SRBs might be for SLS as time goes on. And that's something that is really unfortunate and something that would be nice to, to get back into it. And by the way, this individual also was an engineer for SLS and flat out admitted that it was far too expensive. This is somebody who worked on SLS and flat out admitted that it was a far too expensive rocket. So if you've got people who actually were involved in the construction of it, people who have a vested interest in seeing it succeed, even if they're saying that SLS is too expensive, then we've got a problem here. And I think that, but obviously this is something that I've said over and over again, we need a less expensive alternative. But the problem is, from a safety standpoint, another thing that was made pretty clear to me is at NASA is not going to use something that doesn't have a practical abort system. So an SLS, a starship taking off with a crew on board without an abort system is something NASA will never accept. And yes, I have been reminded by my partner in crime in Yorkshire, and this is indeed true, that NASA is trying to find an SLS solution that's half the price. They're trying to cut the price in half, which it still would be too expensive, but at least it would be a lot cheaper. And also we have to remember, of course, the expense of Saturn V. Saturn V was a crazy expensive rocket in today's money, a ridiculously expensive rocket. But here's the thing. We need to be moving forward from the Saturn V. As much as we loved the Saturn V, we need to do better than that. Yes, with taxpayer funded, we need to, if we get half cost, it's a win no matter what. Greg, thank you so much for your support. Really do appreciate that. And once again, greetings to the Great White North and to all my Canadian viewers. I have quite a few of them. Really do appreciate you guys tuning in. And my daughter is a huge fan of your country. If you could teleport her to Canada right now, she'd go and never come back. She loves Canada. So that's just a thing. Also, let's see. Darth Russ says Rogozin wouldn't act against the ISS on his own initiative. That's true. That has irreversible consequences at the national strategic level that he can't manage alone. He's much more useful spinning absurdities like the U.S. somehow turning GPS for just Russia and ISS falling on America. Yeah, I agree with that. Rogozin is just a mad to me. And once again, I've got a video coming out soon that is simply going to be entitled the biggest embarrassment to one of the best space programs in human history. Because let's face it, look at all the things the Russians accomplished. Look at all the probes they sent to Venus. Look at the probe they sent to Halley's Comet. Look at all of the space stations they put up successfully before the ISS became a reality. I mean, yeah, the Mir comes under a great deal of criticism, but hey, it flew for a long time, and I'm confident that it would have flown for a lot longer if the Soviet Union had not collapsed. If the Soviet Union had actually survived and we didn't have that state of utter administrative and economic chaos in the aftermath of the fall of the Soviet Union, Mir probably would have lasted a lot longer than it did. We should have a Falcon-based moon mission that would take 1 Falcon 9 and 4 Falcon Heavies, but it would be less than $1 billion to launch. Yes, that is true. The Falcon Heavy theoretically has the capability to chuck Orion all the way and the European Service Module all the way out to the moon. However, it would require, of course, a great deal of redesign and a lot of safety constraints. This is something else that was made very clear to me in my discussion. I was guided around Sierra Space by their head of safety, okay, the head of their mission assurance program that makes sure that everything they do is going to be safe and not involve the deaths of any of our astronauts. And this is somebody who was very emphatic about any changes that we try to implement. For example, let's say that Elon Musk wants to come up with an idea. I've got this idea to reboost ISS so we don't need progress anymore. That's something that can't be done overnight. That's something that can't be done in a month or two. That's something that has to go through all kinds of simulations, all kinds of a great deal of engineering vetting, and a lot of safety constraints are on that sort of thing. Now, maybe SpaceX can do it by themselves, but if they're trying to do this sort of thing in conjunction with the ISS, then it takes longer to implement these sorts of things. Anytime you make a significant change, it takes a while to implement it. Steven says we need more American broomsticks of all kinds. Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. I mean, I would say, the RD-180 proved itself to be a ridiculously good engine. It's a great engine. The Russians made a fantastic engine, given the fact that there was no Atlas II that failed, no Atlas III that failed, no Atlas V that failed, at least not in terms of mission success. They had mission success all the way down the line. That's a testament to the reliability of those engines. They're good. And so we're going to have to come up with something just as good. And I'll tell you something, the BE4, oof, I don't know. It's there's a lot of question marks about that one, and I must say there is a great deal of anxiety. However, I have a video coming out very soon that is going to be talking about how ULA can put the screws to Jeff Bezos and push him, light a fire under him to put all of his priorities into completing the BE4 and to getting Vulcan Centaur into orbit. I have a video coming out about that, so stay tuned. That's a little spoiler for you guys. So that's something that that we should be waiting for. So, but that's one thing we need to remember. Any changes that happen. So, like for example, if they try to use an Atlas V instead of Vulcan Centaur to launch the Dream Chaser, that's one example. That's something that's not going to happen overnight. It will take months of simulations, of testing, that sort of thing, in order to get Dream Chaser swapped over to the Atlas V or to the Falcon 9 or to something else. Right now, it's currently designed to be used in conjunction with Vulcan Centaur. It theoretically can be used with any other rocket that has a 5-meter fairing. In my opinion, that's one of the reasons why Sierra Space formulated that agreement, by the way, with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries is because they have a rocket capable of carrying Dream Chaser as well. So, but any changes whatsoever still require a great deal of work. And we're talking probably an 8-month to a year delay. And all of this is coming from what I regard to be pretty solid sources. So it's, it's all these things need to be taken into account. And by the way, here's something else for you SpaceX fans out there, something that may be interesting to you. A human rated Dream Chaser, okay? Human rated Dream Chaser would not have a fairing. That should be something that should have been obvious to me from the beginning, but you don't have a fairing with anything human rated. So that being the case, Falcon 9 is a human rated rocket. And virtually nothing else is right now currently, except for the Atlas V in conjunction with Starliner, which means theoretically, and this was not told to me flat out that we will use Falcon 9, but theoretically, Falcon 9 can carry Dream Chaser, a human-rated Dream Chaser, without the fairing. But of course, it may not be able to carry up Dream Chaser plus the Shooting Star module and everything else that might go along with it. Another question that was asked is, how does Dream Chaser do a reboost for ISS? How does it accomplish that, given that it docks from the back? Well, the answer to the question, which was very carefully worded, was the RCS thrusters on the front of the Dream Chaser are much different than your average maneuvering thrusters. They're far more powerful. And that's how they can carry out the reboost. They actually have thrusters in the nose that are capable of providing significantly more thrust than what is traditional for those sorts of vehicles. Once again, this is coming straight from Sierra Space Engineering. So interesting stuff. They wouldn't share how much they're capable of, what the thrust is, what the specific impulse is, or anything like that. But nevertheless, it was interesting to find that out. Is Axiom ready to launch now? Says Robert. No, they are not. They're 2 years away from their first module. So that we don't have any option as far as that's concerned. By the way, guys, please subscribe to this channel. I really do appreciate it. And for those of you who have been supporting me in any way, either in the description, or for those of you who've been throwing in super chats, thank you so much, because this is what makes all this possible. The fact that I was able to go to Sierra Space and do everything that I did on this trip so far, it's all you. It's all you. And thank you so much for making it happen. Okay, we have a few more statements. The last Atlas V should have a mission artwork on the fairing of the word reliability set in a rose tattoo, says Darth Rust. And that's true. It's a damn reliable rocket. It may be expendable. It may be more expensive, but it has yet to fail. It has yet to fail to deliver a payload, to successfully deliver a payload where it's supposed to deliver it. So it's kind of amazing. It's that there are very, very few other people that can say that. So it is kind of an amazing thing indeed. Abigail Dante, by the way, these are all my Discord supporters, people who have joined as angry advocates. You either click that join button at the bottom of your screen, or you can support me on Patreon, and you can ask questions here in the Discord server. The most reliable engine in mass production by an American company is the Merlin 1D. Yes. So maybe it should be called the American RD 180. That is true, indeed. Is there a link to the Discord on Patreon? You know what? I'll go ahead and do this again. I've made a number of posts to all Patreon members about the whole Discord thing. But today, I promise, I will put another post on the Patreon server to show how to link your Patreon membership to the Discord side of things. I'm sorry if you've had any struggles with that, but once again, I will post a link as to how to accomplish that. So once again, I'm sorry it's happened, but I will post instructions today. on how to do that. Absolutely promise. Gamer Moon. Hello, Gamer Moon. It's been a while since I've seen. Are modules in development that would add life support or propulsion, or are we mainly dependent on Elon? Okay. Once again, I do apologize. I'm utilizing my father's high speed internet. He's not a YouTube creator, so I can't expect him to pay for really fast internet access. So I'm sorry about the momentary disconnection there. Starliner is, our other option of that, at least in terms of short term, in terms of things that could be in service less than a year, that is, going to be human rated and also have the capability to do ISS reboost. But Starliner is a scary thing. Starliner is a scary thing. Now, I have heard unconfirmed information from people outside of ULA. Okay, so take this for what it's worth, but nevertheless, this is something that was as that I've just heard from sources that have been reliable in the past, but it's unconfirmed and they're not ULA sources. But that the Starliner had some wind tunnel problems, that the engineering viability of the spacecraft is in a little bit of question. And so there is some worry. And I'll tell you something I never thought about. And think about this for a minute yourselves. Think of yourself as a ULA or a NASA person in mission control, or a Boeing person for that matter. Think of yourself as one of those people, and Starliner is getting ready to launch, and there are 4 human lives in your hands. Say you're one of the engineers. Say you're one of the people who designed this thing. There are 4 human lives riding on what you designed. Can you imagine how scary that is? Can you imagine how terrifying that is for those people? Just praying that it works, praying that nothing happens, praying that nobody gets hurt or killed. I mean, geez, I wouldn't like that kind of pressure. And I must say, even the people at Boeing, I've got to have some respect for them, because the pressure that's on them with all the human lives that are in their hands, I don't know how they do it. I don't know. And when something happens that's engineering related, I don't even know how they live with themselves. I mean, it's just terrible. It's, this is a scary industry. This is a big boy industry here, with human lives at stake. Space is hard, and space is especially hard, especially dangerous, and especially something that needs to be taken very seriously if human lives are at risk. And so that's something that was made very clear to me, by the way, when I took this tour. And I was very glad that I had somebody on the safety side of things, with Sierra Space showing me around, because I really got a clear idea of how that works. And one thing that's really cool about Sierra Space is their safety VP has a direct line to the CEO. They don't have to report to anybody else. So they don't have to argue with engineers. They don't have to argue with, people who are trying to sell the ship or anything like that. They go straight to the CEO and say, this isn't safe. And that doesn't exist in every company. That kind of safety doesn't exist. Thank you so much, Chris. Really do appreciate it. Thanks so much. And of course, you finished your fish and chips. Oh my God, I am so envious. You haven't tried fish and chips until you've gone to Britain. It's as simple as that. That there's a reason why Britain is famous for fish and chips. It's the best. It is the best, because I've had it so many times over here in the US. That's funny, but my partner in Yorkshire hates it. And I guess I wouldn't be surprised, because he's a vegan for one thing. But I'll tell you, fish and chips is everywhere in Britain. It's kind of hard to get around it. Boy, we've almost run out of time. Oh my Lord, we have done so much in such a short amount of time here. We've discussed so many things, but really, I just wanted to share a piece of everything that I've gotten. And this is only the tip of the iceberg, guys. I got to see Dream Chaser float across the whole warehouse as they were doing a variety of different tests, stress tests on the wings and on the structure, etc. That almost never happens, by the way. Dream Chaser is almost never in motion in the warehouse. And I just happened on that day, because of you guys, I got to see that. And not only will I see it, you will too, as soon as all the video gets vetted by their security, because there's very valuable and proprietary technology in that warehouse that they have to make sure stays safe. But nevertheless, you will get to see all of that too. And I'll tell you, it was a magical moment. It was a magical moment to see that vehicle in motion. All of these Sierra Space people gathered around, how excited all of them were after all of these years that they have put into it. Something's being highlighted by it was the business exec overruling the NASA engineers. Yes, for the Challenger disaster. Absolutely. Absolutely. It was the decision made by somebody who shouldn't have the authority to override safety people. And actually, it was from those lessons learned with Challenger and Columbia that NASA and other space companies have made changes to their security protocols and safety protocols to where people who have, a purview over human safety get to abort launches and nobody can say anything about it. There's a big change at NASA. That's why we have to have an abort system on SLS. That's why no abort system on Starship is unacceptable as far as NASA is concerned. They don't want a repeat of this sort of thing. They don't want Challenger. They don't want Columbia to happen again. And I have to admit, I have respect for that. I really respect it. I mean, if somebody wants to risk their lives on a ship with no abort system, I respect that too. If they're willing to roll the dice with that, I get that. But if NASA doesn't want to take that chance, then I get it. Yeah, Starship itself is the abort system, is the theory behind it. But even Elon himself, my friend in Yorkshire made that, but Elon himself, during the question and answer that he did recently, if you remember the speech that he just made, there was just a question put to him as to whether or not Starship had an abort system. His answer was no. And then it was, I suppose we could put something in there to have Starship itself abort away from Super Heavy or something along those lines. But really, it was clear from how he was saying. Go back and have a look at the talk that he gave. It's clear that they don't have a straight out abort system in place for Starship right now. That doesn't mean we can't use Starship. We just can't have human beings on Starship taking off and landing yet. Eventually we will. I'm confident that we will one day. But right now we have to be careful about these things. We have to be cautious. One other question: is Dream Chaser safer than the space shuttle? Asked Kawaii Astronaut. In my opinion, yes. And this is the reason. Because I got the opportunity to spend hours talking to the young lady who heads up all of the safety protocols for Dream Chaser. This person is safety obsessed. And her level of expertise and the team that she has supporting her is beyond strong. And they are really concerned with human safety, not just for humans on a human-rated Dream Chaser, but also for a Dream Chaser docking with the ISS, an unmanned Dream Chaser just carrying cargo. They're obsessed with safety. So yes, I am very confident that Dream Chaser has learned the lessons of things that went wrong with the shuttle. And it is far safer than the shuttle ever was. And it's unfortunate that the shuttle ever was unsafe. It's tragic that those things happened. And I feel for those 14 astronauts all the time, given the sort of work that I do. But we need to learn from those lessons and try to make spaceflight. Spaceflight will never be safe. Spaceflight will always be hard. Spaceflight will always be risky. But we need to make it as safe as possible. And until the moment comes when everyone has that philosophy that we need to go to space, we need to colonize the solar system, and yes, human lives may be lost, but we need to be as safe as possible. Until we do all of those things, guys, I urge all of you to stay angry about space.